Friday, July 26th, TNA started posting a series of videos on their website, ImpactWrestling.com, as well as up on their YouTube channel, promoting the date August 1st. Series of vignettes, which were very well done, might I add. Some of the best vignettes in TNA that I've seen in quite some time, which is quite surprising, but nonetheless, it was a mysterious figure that appeared to be bald with pointy ears. The figure said they didn't work for TNA, they didn't work for Spike TV, they weren't Batista, they weren't Jericho, they weren't Goldberg. They started dropping names such as those high caliber talents in order to gain some mainstream attention, in which it did. A lot of people were asking me who I thought was behind the August 1st warning, and probably the most attention that TNA has gotten in quite some time. So TNA had a very good had a very great thing going with this over the past week, and this is only on the internet too. These vignettes never made it to television before last night on August 1st, the first edition of TNA Impact Wrestling. So it was a nice internet thing they had going for a brief while. I don't know how long ago they came up with this, but the fact that they started it last Friday and built a huge following with it over the course of the week was a very smart idea by TNA. But even still, I had no legit guesses. Some people were saying Bobby Lashley, which would have made sense, I guess, maybe, because he's a former MMA fighter. Some people were saying Low-Key, aka Cabal from WWE. Some people were saying Adam Pearce, who posted a video earlier on in the day yesterday, before TNA Impact Wrestling aired, saying that sorry to disappoint, but it wasn't him. So that was a letdown. I think it would have made perfect sense if it was him, seeing how he was cut from TNA Gut Check a couple months ago. Some people were saying there were just a whole range of guesses. Goldberg, just Shane McMahon, which I thought was hilarious. There were just a lot of people who people thought this August 1st warning could be. So it was very intriguing. A lot of people had zero idea who this could have been. So here comes August 1st edition of TNA Impact Wrestling last night. Pretty decent show up until the main event. So we had the main event, main event Mafia talking with Aces and Eights, or even before that, the mid-show point. They had the limousine. They showed images of the limousine outside of the arena multiple times throughout the course of the show. Taz went up to it for some odd reason. I have no idea why it was Taz of all people. But nonetheless, he went up to the limousine. He opened it up. It was a laptop. People making jokes that it was anonymous Raw general manager from a few years ago. Ha ha ha. But whatever. Even so, going on after the segment between Aces and Eights and the main event Mafia, the lights went out. Person walks out, and it ends up being Tito Ortiz. Now, this is not a huge surprise. There were rumors running rampant over the course of the week that it could have been Tito Ortiz. I didn't get my hopes up as far as the eventual reveal goes, even though I was intrigued by it. I didn't want to get my hopes up because I knew I could have been disappointed because there weren't any real huge guesses, as in real talent that it could have been. Like, imagine Hardcore Holly coming out there. It wouldn't have been a big deal, but I would have prefer to be Hardcore Holly over Tito Ortiz, and this is coming from a UFC fan too. I've been practicing MMA for years. I'm a fan of UFC, but the fact that it was Tito Ortiz, it makes no sense. It does nothing for TNA, nothing to benefit them whatsoever. If they're thinking of bringing ratings, just look at what they did with King Mo last year. They brought him for a freaking week. He's made all of 2 appearances on TNA Impact Wrestling over the last year and a half, so he's paid he served zero purpose in TNA after this point. Then you have Rampage Jackson, who they signed in early June. I like Rampage Jackson, so I like the signing, but they haven't done anything with him besides put him in main event Mafia, and he's looked like a goof in that stable too. But aside from that, they're bringing in Tito Ortiz. I guess it's to promote their next Bellator fight, and I understand some people are saying that these MMA talents are being paid by Spike rather than TNA, but even still, at a time that they're trying to cut costs. In all my past WrestleRant videos, which is pretty funny since all my past WrestleRant videos, the last 2 or 3 of them, have been on TNA, strangely enough, but even still, they're trying to cut costs wherever they can with Jesse Sorensen, Madison Rayne, Tara, Doc, D'Lo Brown, Bruce Pritchard, the list goes on and on and on, as far as talents that they've cut in the last month or so, and instead they bring in this UFC fighter who hasn't been relevant in a decade, who received no reaction on Thursday's Impact Wrestling. He came out to literally no reaction whatsoever. Even the wrestlers didn't even look shocked. They were like, "Oh, this guy's taking my place." It was beyond stupid. The live crowd had zero reaction for this guy. There were some mild boos, which were very understandable. No one knows who this guy is in the wrestling world. I understand he had a very illustrious career in MMA, but He serves no purpose in the wrestling world. Neither does Rampage Jackson. Neither does King Mo. They haven't done anything for the company since the time that they've been here. Rampage Jackson's only been here for 2 months, but in the time that he's been here, he's done nothing. I mean, I understand they got some mainstream attention for all of 5 minutes, but the ratings aren't going up, people. If that's why they're bringing this in, if that's why they're bringing in these MMA stars, the ratings aren't going up whatsoever. They tried that with Hogan a few years ago. They tried that with Eric Bischoff, with Ric Flair back in early 2010. The ratings didn't change shit. They didn't change whatsoever. You have the biggest star in professional wrestling, Hulk Hogan, and that didn't change anything whatsoever. Maybe they thought bringing in King Mo, Jackson, Tito Ortiz, etc., could try to replicate Brock Lesnar's stint in the WWE, because when he returned in early April of 2012, that gained a lot of mainstream attention, and granted, the ratings didn't reflect that. They didn't change drastically, but Brock Lesnar has been booked pretty well for what it's worth over the last year and a half, despite some drops and losses to Triple H and John Cena. But aside from that, he's been doing very well for himself. He's currently involved in a great feud with CM Punk. Going into SummerSlam, so I'm looking forward to that. But it's not going to change anything. Brock Lesnar was previously in WWE. This guy is a former wrestler before he went to UFC. That's where he got his roots. That's where he's from. It's not like he's a random UFC guy going into the WWE with no prior experience in wrestling. These guys have never wrestled a match in their life. Aside from MMA, I understand the similarities, but it doesn't make a difference. You don't bring in a guy that's not going to reflect the ratings, that does nothing for the product. They're not going to help the younger talent. If they're going to do Tito Ortiz versus what's his name, Rampage Jackson, at Bound for Glory, that'd be a major letdown. That's a Bellator thing. Keep it on Bellator. I understand Spike TV's trying to use TNA to boost their ratings for Bellator, but it's not changing jack shit, so why even bother? I just don't understand. Maybe bringing in someone like a Lashley, I think probably could have been better than bringing in Tito Ortiz, because there was huge outrage in regards to people's reaction to this thing. It was ridiculous how much hate this thing received, and myself included. So I just don't see the point in it. I understand Dixie Carter addressed it yesterday, even before this whole thing went down. Oddly enough, she addressed it in her hashtag AskDixie thing, her official questionnaire Q&A session she held on the Impact Wrestling website yesterday. She was asked by a fan, why do you bring in MMA guys? They're not doing anything for your company. I forgot what she said, but it was some kind of bullshit corporate answer saying that it's beneficial to the company. It's really not. They have done nothing for TNA. King Mo didn't do jack shit. I doubt Rampage Jackson and Tito Ortiz are going to do anything. And then again, I mean, just saying, this is not coming from a TNA hater. I've been watching TNA for 5 straight years now. It's not coming from a UFC hater. I love UFC as well, but I'm just saying they're not doing anything to benefit TNA whatsoever, especially at a time when they need all the younger talent as possible. They've been cutting all this talent. They've cut Crimson, Christian York, Joey Ryan, Taylor Hendricks, and they're bringing in people past their prime that don't deserve to be in wrestling in the first place. Why even bother if it's not going to be beneficial for you? If it's maybe going to be beneficial for Bellator, but I doubt it. I just don't have enough bad things to say about this kind of thing. It's a complete waste of time, made for a terrible ending to what was a rather good show on Impact Wrestling. I really want to like TNA. I really want them to succeed, but it's really hard to say that when they kind of pull this kind of shit on you. But nonetheless, here's hoping that they prove me wrong. They end up using him well, which I think is I'm not really sure what to say. I mean, if they use him well, then all the power to him. But if not, it's just a sinking ship that is TNA. So here's hoping then they can get on the right track going forward with Tito Ortiz, all the other UFC stars in TNA at the moment and whatnot. But nonetheless, thanks for watching. Really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe as well. And I'll see you guys next time. This is GSM, signing out. Till next time, guys.